What's going on, guys, and welcome back to #AskGSM, episode 246, here today for August 15th, 2018. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. Bit of a short time leash here today. I got 40 minutes till I go to work. Didn't have a ton of questions to begin with, but bit of a disclaimer that today's episode will not be as long as usual. I do have to go to work very, very quickly. So I'm going to have to rush through most of these questions, and this episode will likely not be up until late Wednesday because I got to go to work and I can't upload it before I leave. Today's a busy day, but it's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan because SummerSlam week end is coming up very quickly. We got TakeOver Saturday, SummerSlam next Sunday, Raw and SmackDown, all at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. No SummerSlam for me, at least not being there live. Though I will be at TakeOver on Saturday, and then SmackDown the following Tuesday. So I'm going to be at the two A shows next week at the Barclays Center. But nonetheless, guys, if you want to send in a question, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a question on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, be sure to drop a question down below in this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. First and foremost here from Captain Sunshine from YouTube. It's really interesting to me that WWE is Kurt Angle going out to the ring in the main event segment of Raw, to say Brock Lesnar is the worst champion ever. When, hey, he's still the champion because nobody you've put him up against can beat him. It's not like he cheats his ass off to beat people, he just suplex murders them. Goldberg got beat, Samoa Joe got beat, Braun Strowman got beat, and Roman has not succeeded in his 77 tries either. I know they're trying to play at Brock's inherent apathy, but are we really supposed to think he's a quote-unquote bad champion for not losing in the past year and a half? Again, I think I've said this before, the logic behind that is so stupid. Calling people the worst champion ever completely devalues, obviously their reign, that goes without saying, but it's like, devalues not only that person, but anyone who ends up beating that person for the belt. Why the fuck should I care when Roman inevitably beats him for that championship at SummerSlam? If Brock's such a bad champion, what the fuck is it going to mean when Roman takes the title off him on Sunday? Absolutely nothing. Because Brock's reign was so bad. Brock's not the best champion for not showing up, and the reign has not been great, all things considered. But by calling him the worst champion ever, it's going to mean absolutely nothing when Roman beats him. It's stupid. Like you said, Brock has been beating people clean, left and right, Braun, Samoa Joe, with one F5, except for Roman Reigns, who actually he did beat with one F5 at SummerSlam last year, so that's not completely far-fetched. It has happened before. But he's beating people with one move for a reason, because he's a fucking beast. Again, he's not showing up every single week, and he should, maybe not every week, but he should be a better champion, but he's not the worst champion ever. That's very bad logic there, and it makes not only your champion look bad, it makes the inevitable person who beats him look terrible too. Their second question, I appreciate Renee Young's commentary on Raw because it's nice to hear a different kind of voice on a 3-hour wrestling show instead of third announcer everyone hates who is only really there to say stupid shit and get the information wrong. I don't know if there's anything WWE has overused more in the past decade than announcers yelling at each other. Could we get another easygoing female announcer for the Evolution pay-per-view? Just anything that's not 3 hours of Graves and Cole shitting on Coach, and Coach defending himself with some Mike Adamle-ass attempts at commentary. Yeah, I thought Renee Young was good. She didn't blow me out of the water or anything like that, but I thought she was good. A refreshing change of pace. Then again, people said the same thing about Coachman night one. They thought it was good that he was back. People were excited. So we'll see. Renee Young, if they stick with her as a commentator. We'll see how she does for the Mae Young Classic. We'll see how she does for Evolution. Maybe by that point they can bump Coachman to SmackDown or something and put Renee Young on Raw. If anything, Coachman's not great. I don't mind him as much as some other people do, but whatever. But Renee Young is a third commentator for Raw could work. It's better than Coachman. She's not getting shit wrong. She knows what she's talking about. We need more Renee Young. Pay this woman all the money in the world to keep her afloat, to keep her employed to WWE. Because I know ESPN has tried to steal her in the past, and they're not doing themselves many favors by fucking taking away her shows and her segments on YouTube and limiting her role on WWE TV. That's not good. She is one of the most valuable assets they have in that company. So by limiting her just to pre-show panels and interviewing, it's not good. They should be having Renee Young do more. And by putting her on commentary could be a good option for that. I know 5 years ago she wasn't the best, 4 or 5 years ago when she was doing commentary, but she has seemingly improved. And you got to give it more time, of course. Maybe she's pretty green. We just didn't really see that on Monday. But you know what? It's a step in the right direction for that Raw commentary booth because Coachman has really not been the best, and Renee Young could be exactly what that booth needs right now on Raw. The third question, also from Captain Sunshine, isn't it amazing of Bray Wyatt how, in a match containing a severely injured guy who's about to retire, 2 jobbers in a homemade t-shirt, and the tag team who spent Raw's 25's main event getting emasculated by a bunch of old dudes, former WWE Champion Bray Wyatt still found a way to be the one to get pinned in that triple threat tag team match on Raw. I was surprised. Yeah, Bray rarely, if ever, eats the pinfall. And the tag team matches, really, I mean, not ever, because he was the eater of pinfalls for a long time on his own before he went babyface. I was surprised they didn't pin Matt, but maybe their logic was that Matt got beat the last 2 times they lost the matches to the B team, so maybe he'd switch it up this time with Bray getting beat. I think Matt's the one that's going away, so I would have had him lose again, but whatever. I like Matt Hardy, I like Bray, it doesn't really bother me too much. It's kind of nitpicking, but it is a little surprising that Bray Wyatt was the one to get beat when it very easily could have been Matt Hardy. You know, I know they didn't pin the Revival because they're going for the belts again on Sunday, but I did find that a little bit surprising, if only to see the Shatter Machine hit on Bray Wyatt. I was not expecting that. That was a cool visual. Their fourth and last question here. I've never been a big Jim Neidhart fan, but it's always heartwarming to see so much affection. It's heartwarming to see, I should say. No always there. To see so much affection and respect for the guy's career following his passing, since you never really realize how important some of these guys are to wrestling until they're gone, and fans start saying, oh yeah, he was important to me because of X. Like, as someone who grew up watching tag team wrestling where tag teams were kind of sort of one guy split into 2, the Road Warriors, the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, etc., the Hart Foundation were an example of a good tag team, of how good tag team wrestling can be when the partners are opposites. Jim was a big, strong guy with a smaller technician in Brett, and it changed the entire playing field for who would be in the ring, when, and why. Energized Hoss was also an underrated thing to be back in the day, and without the Anvil, Brett probably would have never figured out how to add some personality to his character. Who's someone that you learn to appreciate after their passing? That's a good question. I really don't have one obvious answer. I'm trying to think of people who have passed away in recent years, and I'm like, holy shit, they did a lot more than I thought they did. China, like, I'm not really sure. Like, people like the Warrior, I still appreciated when they were still alive. Roddy Piper. Anvil, I think, would be among them. I think Anvil would be a great example. I agree with that. I'm going to piggyback off of your answer. Just because we never saw him on WWE TV. I feel like the last time that we saw him on TV was like for Raw's 15th anniversary show, like a decade ago. And we haven't seen him on TV since. It's not like the guy's going to wrestle or anything, but especially considering his daughter is on TV, you would think we would see more of him on programming. Now, we see Bret Hart all the time. He's always showing up to represent Natalia, but her fucking dad's still alive. Like, why not Jim Neidhart? Now we'll never see that because now he's passed away. I always thought that was weird. Like, I love Bret Hart. I know he's a bigger name, but her dad's still alive. Why doesn't he just show up to represent Natalia every once in a while? Not why just Bret Hart? I always thought that was really weird, but I do agree. I think people underrated him while he was alive and really as a tag team guy just in general, so I think that's a great example. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. I'm doing this quickly, like I said, but I do think that he's a great example of what you laid out there. Let's see. Next question from Brandon A. from YouTube. Top 3 matches of the week. Can't think of top 3 matches. Again, I didn't really have much time to prepare. I'm trying to think of what happened in the last week that I thought was like really, really good. I can't remember what happened on Lucha, what happened on NXT. I'll look real quickly on like my website to see what the matches were. But like Raw and SmackDown, I thought SmackDown had a few decent matches this week. Jeff Hardy and Shelton Benjamin was good. Cedric Alexander and Gentleman Jack Gallagher had a great match on what was it? On 205 Live. Sanity and New Day. They had a couple good matches too. There wasn't a lot of like great wrestling on Raw this week. Austin Aries and Eddie Edwards was all right in Impact last week. Pentagon Jr. Matt Sydal was also pretty good. Not great, but it was what it was. Taji Ishimori and Petey Williams versus the Desi Hit Squad was all right. Let's see what happened on Lucha last week. Oh yeah, the Worldwide Underground versus the Reptile Tribe I thought was a really good match. What else happened? Jack Evans and Joey Ryan versus Exolicious and Ivelisse. That was okay. Dragon Azteca versus Mary Post. That was okay too. Yeah, but the main event was great. I can't think of 3 matches off the top of my head, but those would be among them just because I thought those matches were all good to very good, if not great. Next question here from Brandon. Who done it for the Aleister Black attack? I mean, there's a couple different answers, a couple different theories. I know the Solid Monster was going over his possibilities on his podcast. I'm going to kind of steal from him. Ciampa would be the obvious one, and Gargano. I don't think it's either one of them. Lars Sullivan makes sense. We've not seen Sullivan since he got his jaw broken in storyline at TakeOver Chicago at the hands, or I guess feet, of Aleister Black. There's him. Cassius Ohno is a red herring. He could be a red herring. He could be a dark horse. There's a few different people who I think it could be. I'll say Matt Riddle, I guess, but I don't know. I feel like that'd be a little random off the top, just straight from the get-go. If I had to choose, I guess Ciampa would make sense, but why not just say it was Ciampa, you know? EC3 is a possibility. He was on the scene. I'll say Cassius Ohno, just because he seemed a little suspicious when he was on the scene in the footage that we saw. So I'll go off of what Solid Monster said and say Cassius Ohno, but there's a few other possibilities, which is what I like about it. Who has had the best calendar year ever in WWE as far as in-ring matches at each pay-per-view during a single year? Name the year and the superstar. That's a fucking loaded-ass question, dude. That's going back a long time. I like the question, but I don't, because it's like, name the greatest wrestler of each year in WWE. Like, I can't think back to fucking 1988, so I don't know. Shawn Michaels in 96 was on fire. He's got to be one of them. Daniel Bryan in 2013, 2014, the guy was fucking killing it. So Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins this year, The Shield in 2012, 2013, they were killing it. I can't think of like the best ever in one calendar year. Like, I don't know. Shawn Michaels in 1996 would probably be my answer, just because I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head right now. But yeah, that's just a few of them. Kurt Angle maybe in 2000, 2001, Benoit, same thing. Oh, God, I don't know. There's so many people. But yeah, just off the top of my head, Kurt Angle in 2002, Shawn Michaels in 1996, Seth Rollins in 2018, Daniel Bryan in 2014, and I'm sure there's a few others, but those are really the only ones that come to mind right now. If the WWE books SummerSlam correctly and gives us compelling feuds on TV afterwards, what does the Hell in a Cell card look like? You don't have to give me every single match, but what would it look like as a rough draft? I could see AJ and Joe continuing. I hope it continues. They've had great chemistry so far. I'd be disappointed if the feud got cut short at SummerSlam. So, Joe and AJ Part 2. Carmella maybe and Becky 1-on-1 if Carmella retains on Sunday. I could see Alexa and Ronda Part 2. I could see maybe Roman and Braun for the Universal Championship. Jeff Hardy and Orton is pretty obvious, I would say. Daniel Bryan and The Miz maybe Part 2, or Daniel Bryan and Almas if they transition into that direction. I guess they could do Miz and AJ, but I really hope that AJ and Joe is not cut short after SummerSlam. But yeah, there's a few different things they can do. Maybe Finn Balor versus Kevin Owens if they want to do that feud, or Finn Balor versus Dolph Ziggler, or Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose if they go in that direction. There's a lot of good matches they could do at that pay-per-view, regardless, or depending on how SummerSlam is booked. Mark S. from Facebook. What would you have thought of an I Quit match stipulation for the Johnny Gargano versus Tommaso Ciampa match in NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4, or do you prefer the Last Man Standing stipulation? I like stipulation. I like the Last Man Standing stipulation more, just because I Quit I always thought was dumb. I was never a big fan of that stipulation. I always thought it was really, I thought it was just, whatever. Wasn't a big fan of I Quit. But yeah, Last Man Standing is usually pretty good. Sometimes can be boring, but I Quit, it's very hit or miss. Usually miss. It's not the most exciting. But I like the Last Man Standing stipulation for their match at TakeOver. His second question, even though it's too tough to call if you had to choose, who would you have go over in the Velveteen Dream versus EC3, Daniel Bryan versus The Miz, and Cedric Alexander versus Drew Gulak bouts? Dream over EC3, Miz over Bryan, and Alexander over Gulak. Would you be interested in seeing Layla return for Evolution? I love Layla. I think it'd be cool. There's no one's really clamoring for Layla to be brought back, so it's not like, oh my god, she's not a part of it. It's a fucking slap in the face. Like, she should be. She was one of the longest tenured divas on that roster, and also, she was around for a while. She had some success, and I think reuniting her with Michelle McCool for a night would be cool. I was never the biggest Laycool fan, but it would make sense if they faced the Iconics, or the Bellas, or whatever. I would love to see AJ Lee return ahead of Layla, but Layla coming back would be pretty cool. I'm not sure what she's up to nowadays. I know she got married, I think, maybe had a kid. So I don't know what she's up to, but if she has the time, if they reach out to her, I would love to see Layla be a part of Evolution. But what would you have thought about Asuka being added to the SmackDown Women's Championship bout at SummerSlam, good or bad? It's not necessary. I mean, Asuka not being a part of the pay-per-view is kind of disappointing, but she's not on the show for a reason. They have nothing for her. I don't want to see them fucking add women just for the sake of adding women. Charlotte and Becky have that great dynamic there. Asuka had her shot twice. She lost. It's time to move on. Charlotte lost too, granted, but they kind of piqued my interest with the whole Charlotte-Becky thing. So it's a different story this time than what we saw a few months ago. So yeah, adding Asuka would have just felt pointless and really would have just felt forced, if anything. With Kevin Owens versus John Cena being confirmed for the Australian pay-per-view, would you alter your preference, or would it alter your preference as to who wins the Money in the Bank contract match at SummerSlam? No. Owens should not win anyway. I like KO, but Braun should be Mr. Money in the Bank and should be the one to cash in the contract to become world champion. Owens had his shot. He can always get the belt back down the road. He doesn't need the briefcase. Owens versus Cena does not need to be for the briefcase anyway. So regardless of whether Owens wins or not on Sunday, it should not, like a Cena-Owens match should not matter. But the match should be great. Owens and Cena, I think, have only had 3 matches. I'm almost positive. I'm pretty sure their only 3 matches happened at one-on-one anyway, at Elimination Chamber, Money in the Bank, and Battleground. I think they kept it special and never went back to that match on TV, unless I'm mistaken. But that being said, I look forward to their match at the Australian show, the Super Showdown or whatever it's called, so I look forward to that, but Owens should still lose on Sunday, no doubt about it. Roger W. from Facebook. Do you think wrestlers should be booked to win more matches with their secondary moves? Fans are so used to guys kicking out that there seems to be no drama when the moves are hit, i.e. when Owens hits the Frog Splash, the Blue Thunder Bomb, Rollins suplex and the Falcon Arrow, etc. Corbin actually winning with Deep Six got me thinking about that and how long it's been since someone won with a secondary move. I agree. I think they need to make secondary moves mean more. They've done that before with like a few different people. A few different people would win with like various moves. Cena was one. Sheamus was one for a while. Like the Celtic backbreaker or the fucking whatever it was called was like the bro kick. A lot of those moves were secondary moves that he could also win with. The Celtic Cross or Celtic Curse, whatever the Celtic Cloverleaf, I think it's called. He had that as a signature move that would sometimes beat people. I like that. I like that a lot. AJ too, he can beat people with the calf crusher or the phenomenal forearm or the Styles Clash. I think more people should have that too. I completely agree people don't take it seriously just because we see people kick out of fucking 10 finishers now. Why do you think HBK and The Undertaker was so special at WrestleMania 25? Yeah, the story was great, but people weren't fucking kicking out of 10 finishers back then. So when one of them kicked out of the Sweet Chin Music, or the other one kicked out of the Tombstone, it felt special. It felt like, holy shit, he kicked out because it meant something. Nowadays, it's like, you expect it. Andre G from Facebook, when Christian made his WWE return back in 2009, did you see him as a top main event guy or just a high mid-carder? The funny thing is that I was not too aware of who Christian was when he came back. I had just started watching wrestling early on in 2008. I saw some of him in TNA before he left, and I heard he was going back to WWE through the dirt sheets. And the rumor was that he was going to be going back to feud with Edge. Or not feud with Edge, feud with Jeff Hardy. And help Edge retain his WWE title or something weird like that. So he was supposed to be a main event guy. The whole reason why I got nixed, apparently, was because people found out, and they fucking nixed it because they didn't want their plans to get out. People were chanting his name during Hardy and Edge. So they nixed that, had Matt Hardy go heel instead, and brought him to ECW. I doubt that was the plan the whole time. I'm sure that was a last-minute thing. It felt random anyway when he returned to the go-home show for fucking Elimination Chamber, or No Way Out, whatever the pay-per-view was that year. I always really kind of saw him as a high mid-carder. The only reason I ever really thought of him as a main eventer was because of those rumors. But when he was slotted on ECW, I kind of figured, okay, this is the role for this guy. I like him a lot. I'm a fan of his, but I don't see him getting above a certain level in WWE, which he would. I mean, for a time in 2011 when he won the world title and turned heel, but largely that was because Edge got hurt. And he was going to feud with Edge anyway, but I doubt he was going to be a main event guy for the long term. His second question, what is one feud WWE missed in the past year that could have been good? Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar was the first one that came to mind. Just because I don't know if the match would have been too realistic. I mean, it's fucking wrestling. You can suspend your disbelief. But it made a lot of sense for Balor to go back for the belt and take on the guy who took his championship, and he never really lost the championship in the first place. The match could have been a lot of fun. Balor's pretty damaged right now. Feels like just another guy in the roster, so you'd have to build him back up. But yeah, I was really looking forward to Balor and Lesnar. It never surfaced, and at this point, I don't think it ever will. And Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, too. They could have done that at SummerSlam, but they got to have fucking Roman in the main event, God forbid. If WWE ever has another 3 stages of hell match, who should be in it, and what stipulations would you like to see? I don't want to see it brought back. That's my answer. I was never really a big fan of that match to begin with. It's basically a 2 out of 3 falls match with stipulations. And I really didn't care about any of the ones that they did. I mean, Triple H and Shawn was good. They did one a few years ago with Orton and H. I thought was all right. They did one with Ryback, I think, and John Cena, maybe? If I'm not mistaken, it was okay. It was great. It wasn't great. So I really don't care to see the match be brought back. Just do 2 out of 3 falls. Seems a bit, overbooked for my liking, but that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, I don't really need to see the match be brought back. Jeremy B. from Facebook, do you think we get a few trades after SummerSlam? And if so, who? I don't think so. I know there were rumors of that last year. We just had the shakeup in April. It's really not necessary to be doing trades every few months. Maybe on occasion, but to make a regular thing out of doing trades after a pay-per-view like SummerSlam, it's just not necessary. It's not, because they should stick to what they did in the shakeup. But if they had to make trades, Gable back to SmackDown. I know he wasn't doing much on there anyway, but it's better than being on Raw and fucking losing to Jinder Mahal and Mojo Rawley. Like, what a fucking waste. So Gable to SmackDown, Bobby Roode to SmackDown. I know he was not lighting the world on fire over there either, but at least he held the United States Championship for a time. On Raw, he's been boring as shit. And then to Raw, Naomi would be cool. I don't know if they would break her off from whatever Uso she's married to, so they probably wouldn't do that until next year. But she has not been on SmackDown in like months. So I don't know what's going on with her, but her moving to Raw would be interesting. And then Ty Dillinger too, because why the fuck not? There's not many other people I would move to Raw, but Dillinger just for a change of scenery, if anything else. And then Jeremy's second question here, do you think we get any call-ups after SummerSlam? I thought Aleister Black would be a lock, but obviously he's hurt, so not. So no to that, I should say. Nikki Cross, I can almost put money on. I think that's a given. Nikki Cross, there's no tag teams that really should come up right now. Any, like, Lars Sullivan, maybe, but they don't really need to call. I don't think they should call him up right now, to be honest. There's not many other people I would call up at the moment, but Nikki Cross seems to be a given. I would say Aleister Black, but he's hurt, so that's obviously not happening anytime soon. Maybe after Survivor Series or around Rumble time if he doesn't go back for the championship in NXT. At OK Being OK from Twitter, don't you think WWE needs to go back to doing brand exclusive pay-per-views? Considering we sometimes end up getting repetitive matches. It might also help other superstars have a match on the card as well. I do like the brand exclusive pay-per-views. They could do one every other month. They could do their current schedule and not do fucking 3 pay-per-views a month. That is ridiculous. I mean, it was usually 2. I'm just exaggerating, but even 2 pay-per-views a month is way too much. I'd rather have longer shows, and then rather than having 2 shows every single month. It seemed ridiculous. But, yeah, they do get less people on the shows, but that's even more of a reason to be a part of a compelling storyline. They can make this shit work if they actually had good writing, and they don't, so that's on them. So it doesn't matter whether it's brand exclusive or they do co-branded pay-per-views. That has nothing to do with that at all. It has to do with good writing. I said that earlier this year. I said that now. I'm going to say that now. It has nothing to do with who's on what show and whether the pay-per-views use both brands or not. No, it's a matter of fucking writing good pay-per-views. Like, having good writing and making it work. What a concept, I know. At Rycoats27, assuming Dean turns heel in the fall, or turns heel just period, and feuds with Seth for a bit, who should Dean feud with afterward? So if he turned heel, I guess Bobby Roode's an option. Bobby Roode ain't doing shit right now. Dean and Balor would be a lot of fun, I think. We haven't seen that before. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Dean and Balor, Dean and Finn. We could see that. We could see him in maybe a face Bray Wyatt, a babyface Bray Wyatt. Braun would be interesting. Roman, obviously. There's a few different people he can feud with. Dean as a heel at some point is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. But yeah, those are a few obvious candidates coming out of SummerSlam. Assuming he turns heel there, but even if not. I would assume that he would turn heel a little later on down the road, not as soon as SummerSlam, but we'll see. At Reborn Again from Twitter, do you think a heel Ambrose is Universal Championship material, or will they still keep him as a mid-card act? I think he is. Hey, you know what? Fuck it. If Jinder Mahal can be WWE champion, then fucking Dean Ambrose can be Universal champion. We've seen him as a babyface champion. Like, he's really in his element as a heel. So if he could have a multi-month run as WWE champion, there's no reason he can't have a multi-month run as world champion as a heel. That's personally my opinion. So yeah, I would turn him heel, and he likely will be a mid-card act. I'm not saying that he will be Universal Champion. I just think that he would be fitting in the role, and I think he should be a World Champion at some point on Raw before the end of the year or early next year. At some point, at least as a heel. It's something new. His next question: who are your 3 favorite current tag teams from WWE Impact and Ring of Honor? Off the top of my head, the Briscoes from Ring of Honor. They're fucking awesome. The Young Bucks. The Revival are an honorable mention. I forgot to include the Young Bucks, but Briscoes, Young Bucks, Revival, honorable mention, and then the Usos. Love the Usos. If we're including NXT, then Street Profits, but if not them, then the Usos. Next question: what match do you feel will steal the show at TakeOver Brooklyn 4 and SummerSlam respectively? TakeOver, Cole, and Ricochet is my pick to steal the show. I think that's going to be an amazing match. A lot like Ricochet and Velveteen Dream was at the last TakeOver. SummerSlam, Bryan and Miz. I'm looking forward to Styles and Joe the most, but Bryan and Miz have the most chemistry. We know Styles and Joe have chemistry too, but I have more faith that Bryan and Miz will steal the show and they won't be cut for time. So we'll see, but I think that'll steal the show, and then Cole and Ricochet from TakeOver Brooklyn 4. At It's the King _23 from Twitter. Question was, what are your top 5 TakeOver Brooklyn matches? Good question. Balor and Owens. I mean, you know what? I'll go in order here. I wrote down a little list. Bayley and Banks from the first TakeOver. I was there for that one. Great match. From the second TakeOver, which I was also at, Revival versus DIY for the NXT Tag Team titles. The first one was for the NXT Women's Championship between Banks and Bayley, obviously. 3, Gargano and Almas from Brooklyn TakeOver 3. That was an amazing opener. Asuka and Ember Moon, another great match. One of my favorite Asuka matches from TakeOver Brooklyn 3. And then Finn Balor and Kevin Owens, the main event, the ladder match from TakeOver Brooklyn 1. There's so many more good matches. I even enjoyed Austin Aries versus fucking Bobby Roode. Or Sanity versus Authors of Pain. Or Aleister Black and Hideo Itami. There's a lot of great matches. Or Nakamura and Samoa Joe. But those are probably my top 5 favorite / best, I would argue. What are your top 5 SummerSlam matches? I did a whole list about this on my website. Check out SummerSlam Recall for the full list. I forgot to go back and check out what I wrote. I know Christian and Orton I loved from 2011. Punk and Lesnar is my number 1, easily. AJ and Cena is up there as well from 2016 just because I was there. Cena and Rollins because I was there from 2015. That's it from recent years, I think. I'm trying to think, like, going back a little further than that. Oh, wait, I really like Batista and Cena and Edge and Taker, the Hell in the Cell match in the main event. I like that a lot. I'm trying to think of other matches I really enjoyed from past SummerSlam. Oh, O2 had some great matches. Brock and Rock was awesome, and Triple H and Shawn. So those are just a few of my favorite SummerSlam matches of all time. At Scarlet One, we'll finish up with their questions here. First one being, have you heard about the Colt Cabana suing CM Punk thing for breach of contract over legal fees? Yeah, I did hear about that. It's really disheartening. I'm a Punk fan. I just read more and more shit like this and get more distraught over the fact the guy's an asshole. I mean, we kind of already knew that, but still, it's sad to see these guys seemingly were friends, broke it off. They hugged in the court after they won the lawsuit. Now they're suing each other because Colt... And he's got a good case, seemingly. I mean, we don't know Punk's side of the story, but Punk told Colt he would cover for everything, and then he said, you're on your own, dude, like halfway through the process. Like, what the fuck? So, yeah, I think it's pretty sad. It's really sad to see. Just from a personal standpoint, just knowing, being a fan of both guys, knowing how cool they are and how best friends, how close they were for a long time, and now one guy's suing the other. That's sad. And last question from Scarlett. Have you heard about the rumors of Randy Orton forcing writers to shake his hand after personally exposing himself to them, and the story now getting covered by Fox News? I've heard all about the rumors. I've heard all about the story. It's not that it's not true. It's not like it's only one writer who said it, because a few other writers came out on Twitter recently and other blogs and stuff, and either didn't comment on it or basically said, no, I never shook the guy's hand. So there's something going on there. And a few other people have said the same thing, that Orton's kind of fucked up. So maybe he's not anymore. Maybe he was like 5-10 years ago. But the fact is that it happened and that it should be addressed. So I don't think anything is going to come of it. I don't think he'll get suspended. He might just get a slap on the wrist, if anything. To be quite honest with you, especially if it happened so long ago. But you never know nowadays. I mean, Disney fired James Gunn over the fucking tweets, and now this comes out, and there's no evidence of it like the tweets from James Gunn, but no, like, physical evidence. Just, he said, she said. But still, I think that you could just get a slap on the wrist and everything will be okay. I don't think anything will really come of it. They won't fire him. Maybe suspend him. I don't even see that happening, to be honest, but it does say something that it got picked up by a major news outlet, because that makes WWE pay attention, because they care about that shit. So if you really want to capture their attention, you'll drag in the mainstream news audience. So anyway, guys, that does it for episode 246 of #AskGSM here today. Quickly approaching episode 250, which is fucking crazy. It felt like we just did episode 200 yesterday, even though it was about a year ago at this point. But anyway, guys, support the show by liking the video, dropping a comment with your question or just feedback on the video, sharing the video, and subscribing to the channel for more content. We will be back next Wednesday with another all-new edition of #AskGSM with my on-site report and thoughts at being at TakeOver in SmackDown in Brooklyn in the coming week. I might be a bit backed up in terms of like when I'm working and stuff or in terms of like, the show may not be up on time. We'll see. This episode's going up very late just because today's been a busy day for me. But if you do want to send in a question, tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment on the post. I usually put up on Tuesday nights with the wall also being an option. With your question, leave it on that post. And last but not least, be sure to leave a comment on this very video. Drop a question in your comment. I'll include that comment and question in next week's edition. So with all that being said, guys, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy SummerSlam weekend. It's going to be lit. Isn't that what the kids say? That it's going to be lit. It's going to be hot as fuck. I'm hot as fuck just talking right now. It's so hot in my room right now. Anyway, guys, have a great one. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.